She's still at it in her 80s. She currently has a one-woman show in London going like a train and will be forever loved by many of us as Dorothy in the hit series The Golden Girls. Do you remember that? Ladies and gentlemen, Bea Arthur. Sit down with us, Bea.
We are going to talk about your one-woman show later on in the show.
Oh,
and
terrific.
I have to say, from me, congratulations. I loved every second of it.
Thank you
You go to every show on the West End.
I do. I love theatre.
Do you never look after your child at home?
No, she's in bed. She has a babysitter. He's being cheeky to me, he always is.
Career woman.
Now,
Now look.
Dorothy from The Golden Girls.
Exactly.
Oh, God, what?
That was just magnificent.
That was it.
I'm so, I still can't believe the popularity of that show. We did our last one in '92. That was 11 years ago. 11 years ago.
But it's still showing all over the world.
It's a cult classic, you know.
At the time, when you started it, sometimes actors have a feeling for a show. Did you feel that it was going to be the worldwide hit that it turned out?
I tell you, I wasn't even thinking about that. I just knew that I read the first script and I thought, my God, what a piece of writing this is. I mean, as I say in the show, you know, it was so adult and literate and daring and just kind of marvelous and funny, you know.
It was so forthright and said things that you often hadn't seen in that type of show before.
I know.
Very daring.
But we had done that in another series that I did, which was not shown here in London, the thing called Maude. Yes. But it was the same idea of really tackling subjects that hadn't been tackled before. I mean, as a matter of fact, on Maude, as a 48-year-old woman, I had an abortion on a comedy show. I mean, prior to that, not only did no one ever have an abortion, but no one even discussed it, you know. And it was funny. It was very funny.
The character of Dorothy, you don't feel it's been a kind of weight around your neck?
No, it's lovely. It's been a nice leveler, you know.
Yeah.
It's nice.
People talk to you as if you were Dorothy, presumably.
Yes, that's true. But I think I can't, I mean, I hate people who say, oh, I'm being typecast, you know, isn't that terrible? It isn't. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Do you ever watch The Golden Girls again?
I tell you, sometimes I never watched it while I did it.
No.
Because I was always afraid that it might, you know, cripple me in some way.
I never watched this for the same reason.
Oh. No, but sometimes now if I wake in the middle of the night and it's on, and I see it and I think, my God, that is wonderful.
It was, and so you should.
The relationship between Dorothy and her mother, I thought was one of the great comic pairings ever. I mean, but there's nothing like it elsewhere.
And then, of course, Estelle Estelle, who played your mother, wasn't it? She got made up to look older.
Yeah.
She was younger than anybody else in the show.
Not really. We were all...
I see.
No, the only one who was younger, and she was younger by about 10 years, was Rue. Yeah. But Betty and Estelle and I are pretty much the same age. Yeah.
Now we're going to talk to you about your one-woman show just a little bit later on.
I'm so glad.
Please stay with us on these new cities which we've had put in specially for you.
He's very cheeky. I am so sorry.
What does he want me to do?
Oh, he'd just love you to stay there, please.
Please do. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bea Arthur.
Still to come. Licorice the lifesaver, plus the barefoot doctor.
And when we come back, boob aerobics, guaranteed to add at least an inch to your cup size.
Not in your case, my dear.
No more. See you in a few minutes. Welcome. So lovely to have you here. Mwah.
Lord Winston, how good to see you.
Bea Arthur.
It's a bit of a mouthful, Professor Lord, isn't it? It's not easy.
I don't use them really.
Don't you? No. Well, modesty for fans.
Well, it's quite useful getting into one or two restaurants in London, perhaps.
Yeah, that's perhaps its only benefit.
About the sake.
Good. So it's too big a question to ask how the human mind works. But what is the first thing to address when talking about the human mind?
Well, I think the interesting thing is that you've got this thing here, which weighs 3.5 pounds, which is inside each one of us, and it makes us uniquely what we are. It's got our memories, where we've been, our character, who we hated, who we loved, and it's extraordinarily mysterious. And I suppose if you're looking scientifically, this is the last great unsolved frontier, what the mind is. And so I think it was inevitable that at some point we were going to have to make a television programme about the mind.
And of course the fact that nobody knows much about it.
Well,
apart from yourself.
Well, no, I don't. I'm not a neurobiologist, but I mean, neurobiology is making great strides because we've now got all sorts of techniques, magnetic resonance imaging, looking at brain waves, looking at electrical signals from the brain. So we're beginning. So, for example, you can put somebody in a scanner, and you can work out whether or not they are seeing a face which they regard as being trustworthy or untrustworthy. So we can see how the brain makes those sorts of judgments.
That's amazing.
Can we have just a brief look at the new series? Just about child's mind. So the mind and the personality are intertwined.
Yes, the second programme is about personality. The first one's about learning, and the last one is about how we get on with people. And I think the interesting thing is that for a long time, people have tended to assume that we're sort of genetically determined and that that's the way we're born and that's how we are. But the truth is that what these programmes show is that we can change our mind. We can change the sort of people we are. We can improve ourselves. We can do all sorts of things to improve our learning. And, for example, one of the things we do in the first programme, which is shown tonight, is to follow a child who, by using omega-3, which is a capsule of fish oil, he's able to improve his learning ability by 2 years in terms of reading ability in a matter of a few months. When he was quite backward, suddenly becomes... He suddenly says
absolutely.
But you're going to have the same effect on fish oils now as Delia Smith had on sea salt.
Well, but there really is something in fish oils.
But
it's
also
quite
when you're
extraordinary because the brain
pregnant,
needs those fats.
When you're pregnant, is it true that you should take fish oils to improve the fetus's
Possibly.
brain?
Actually, in fact, there's a study at Oxford University which also shows that you can change the prisoner's mindset in prison. That actually when you give certain fish oils to prisoners, they become much more responsible. So, in fact, there are all sorts of things about the mind that we're learning which I think are being shown in these programmes which are really very surprising and quite extraordinary, which I didn't know about before I started making the programmes.
So do we know why it is, specifically, that fish oils help a child's intellect to advance?
Well, we think it's because the fats that are needed to make the electrical conductivity between the nerve endings, between the synapses in the brain, are very crucial, and those enhance that electrical conductivity. That's the theory.
I read in the paper, so it must be true, last week, that a child's personality is formed, or a person's personality is formed by the time they're 3.
Yeah, in fact, there's another series I've been doing called Child of Our Time, which sort of looks at that issue.
Yeah.
And to a large extent, it is extraordinary that probably even earlier than that, we can see traits in our children right through until they're adults. So once they become cantankerous at the age of 3 months, they're going to be cantankerous for the rest of time.
So tell me, the fish oils, of course, fascinating, but is it going to help adults as well?
Yes.
Would it help a university student? Would it help somebody be better at their job?
Well, let's take old people. One of the things that I think is very... Because I've written a book that goes with this series, also called The Human Mind. And obviously in a book you've got more time to look at the science in detail. But one of the things that's very obvious is that if you don't neglect old people, if you actually stimulate their brain, if you get them to do puzzles, if you get them to go to bingo, if you get them to read or occupy them with other people, their mind is much less likely to deteriorate. And that constant stimulation actually changes the physical nature of the brain, changes the connections in the brain, and keeps people going for longer.
Do you think the brain then is like, well, every other muscle? We've had the boom thing. If exercise...
Yes, absolutely.
Exercise gets better?
Absolutely, yeah. People who exercise their brain inevitably will perform better. And that's been clearly shown. Also, of course, physical exercise too, because physical exercise increases blood flow to the brain, and that actually increases your chance of being more intelligent.
Can I just, sorry, go back to the fish oils? Is this a natural way of taking... So if you eat fresh fish often, or are you talking about it as a supplement?
Certain fish, herring, kippers, oily fish, yes, probably that's right. Okay. You can do much of that. Cod liver oil, of course, was what we were given as children. We didn't understand why it was given, but actually there's a reason to it, turns out.
Wonderful. Oh.
Can I just ask you one thing? As perhaps the most prominent medical or scientific figure that we have on our television and have had for some years now, do people within the medical or scientific field, are they jealous of you? Do they think that you're diminishing your considerable intellect and expertise by appearing on television?
I think they did at one time, Terry, a bit. I think there was a feeling that, you know, I was sensationalising or popularising or being a personality cult. But actually, I think there's growing realisation that there needs to be much better communication of science, and this is one way of doing it. I mean, you know, the truth is, the presenter gets the credit, but the truth is, I work with incredibly good production teams, and really their work is what we're seeing on television, really not mine.
We could speak to Lord Robert Winston, I think, all morning, but thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Now, if you could play how are you?
Mind the fruit, Doc, mind the fruit.
Barefoot,
Good
be
day to you,
Arthur.
sir.
It's
And
looking
your feet.
forward to
Be Arthur.
meeting you a lot.
That's the barefoot
Now,
doctor. Sorry.
Barefoot, please. Today
Slight
is
whiff.
all about how we can give ourselves pleasure.
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 Pleasure. It's a pleasure. Well, the thing is, because they've been talking so much about this work-life balance thing, being out of balance, that all we do is work, work, work these days. And it's the same in America, isn't it? People just working, working, working just to keep up, like hamsters on a treadmill.
Okay.
Well, it's happening here a lot. So the thing is, what I've been thinking is, do we allow ourselves enough pleasure during the day while we're at work? Do you?
It's a pleasure sitting next to you.
Absolutely. I've got great pleasure from Gabby.
No, I say you two are great examples of people who do actually
we do.
enjoy
We have enormous
themselves
fun.
a lot.
Okay.
Me too, and I just wanted to share some of this
Particularly
stuff.
Okay, go on then.
With some ideas, and everybody has some mango out there. Now,
Mango.
mango
Going off the B.
Yes, thank
is
you.
a great example of a food that gives you pleasure.
Excuse me, we've got the audience here. You can eat your mangoes now.
So you just have to eat mango when we get pleasure.
Well, it is actually known to relieve depression, mango, you know.
Is it?
Yeah.
I had a papaya earlier on this morning. Is that good for me?
It's
Good
not
for your
bad.
Okay.
Go on, you're going to say something.
Next one, please.
Next one, please. So you've got all these
Yeah, there's
lovely
one
things
left,
to
yeah.
give
Very
yourself
tasty.
sensual pleasure by eating fruit. Surround yourself with pretty things like amethyst crystals, which are also said to be quite healing.
healthy.
So if you put this next to your computer, say, if you're sitting at a computer all day, this will actually help to just remind you of the beauty of life. Wear nice coloured clothing, things that cheer you up.
Yeah, wear nice coloured clothing.
Yeah, wear nice colour glue.
Smells.
Is this yours?
No, it's yours.
What is it?
Well,
Sorry, yeah, go on.
jasmine, smell that.
Oh, I love the smell. Oh,
Go on, those first, Ruth.
Jasmine.
that's beautiful. Okay.
Jasmine's a lot. You know,
Now,
Now,
keep
what
the jasmine.
about touch?
Oh,
Well, first I've got to tell you something else that'll give you a lot of
Okay,
pleasure.
go on.
This album by Barefoot Doctor, On Baby, is out today.
Touch! Come on.
All right, touch. We don't touch each other enough, do we?
No, we don't.
Sorry.
We hardly know each other, so why would we?
oh, go on, touch away.
So, like, you can give yourself pleasure by touching yourself.
Okay.
As we all
So
know.
are we all going to join in?
Isn't that
Okay.
a little
This is
naughty?
not going to be disgusting, is it?
No, I
Naughty.
promise. No, I do have a
I'm
sense
not
of
playing if
decorum.
it's not going to be disgusting.
Come on.
This is called harmonising fire and water, and it's an old Chinese technique where you take your fingers and put them in the centre of your chest like so. And then you let your hands stroke down very, very lightly to your pubic bone, separate them, up over the breasts or pectoral muscles, back to the centre and down again. And you repeat this very lightly and sensuously.
Come on, everybody.
join in.
Someone join in.
It's very nice. It's not naughty at all. It's actually very good for your health, as well as it bringing you lots of pleasure.
I have immense pleasure.
But if
Already?
if you start doing this in the underground, you get arrested.
No, well, you wouldn't. I mean, it's one of those things that you would take yourself off into a private room to
All right.
do, like
I
the
should
loo.
hope so.
Now you have
or
some
whatever.
mantras for us today.
But I've got something even better
mantra.
first.
Okay.
If you can, like, if you've got the opportunity to do this with someone at work, say you turn around, so you've got your back to me.
Never turn
Right.
it.
And if Terry turns around and you do this to me,
I think he wants you to do this to him.
and everybody turns to the person on one side of you, the right, let's say, and you start percussing with your fists on their, just lightly, on their upper back. And as you do it, go, make this sound, go,
Not so hard.
What does it do to us?
Well, let's turn the other way and do it
That
to the
really
person on the
hurts.
Oh,
other
no, you do it
side.
this way.
That really hurts.
Turn the other way now and do it the other side.
What is this doing for us?
What's it doing for us?
What's that doing?
What did that do?
What it does,
I like that.
it's nice, it activates the energy in your heart center.
Now, what affirmation for today, please?
You want an affirmation?
Yes,
It's
please.
fast today, isn't it? Okay, the affirmation for today is, and so stand
We
up
stand
for
up.
this one.
Stand up. Affirmation.
Okay, say this after me. Please stand up, everyone.
Say this after him. I feel very silly.
Whether at work,
Whether at work,
whether at leisure,
whether at leisure,
I always allow myself
I always allow myself
some pleasure.
some pleasure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I always allow myself some pleasure.
Allow myself some pleasure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
One more time through. Whether
Whether
at
at
work,
work,
whether at leisure, I always allow myself some pleasure. Yeah. I always allow myself some pleasure. Yeah.
Doctor! What a man!
The only show that gives you affirmations to help you through the week. Thank you, Beth and Doctor.
God, I feel like $1 million, and my boobs are getting bigger. Still to come, Danny Baker and his amazing moving soda can.
Plus guaranteed bigger breasts. It's more boob aerobics when we come back. We'll see you after the break.
Day 2 with Danny Baker, amazingly. And
Arthur is still with us and has an opinion on that. You could not get over the ladies in our audience, could you, B?
No, I really couldn't. First of all, the word is, I think, very offensive.
Boob aerobics?
Boob aerobics. I mean, boob is such a ridiculously ugly word.
What would you like it to be? Breast aerobics, maybe?
Breast aerobics, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Chest aerobics.
Chest aerobics.
but Zuma
something.
aerobics.
But you do have an opinion on breasts.
No, I tell you, I have an opinion. I don't say I have an opinion, but I'm the opposite of what the so-called boob aerobics is, because I had breast reduction.
Now, was that a while ago? A few years ago?
No, quite, maybe 10 years ago.
Was it painful?
Excuse
Not
me,
at
your
all.
body language is amazing. While you're
I
doing
know, I
this.
just went, oh! So it wasn't?
No, not at all, not at all. I think it's one of the best things I ever did. I mentioned
Really?
in my show that at one time I had enormous breasts.
You did?
Yes, but not courtesy of boob aerobics.
But,
It just happened.
but do you feel better now for having less
Oh yes,
breast?
oh yes. I mean, it was. There are some people who just have, I guess, boob aerobic. Gone crazy or something.
I know, it's
But
silly.
yeah, when it really gets to be uncomfortable, something has to be done.
There was a great star of films in the 50s in this country called Chesty Morgan.
Here he goes again. Don't mind him. Now, your one-woman show at the Savoy Theatre.
Yes.
As I said, many congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely outstanding.
Thank you.
And very, very funny. And you sing glorious songs as well. So tell us about how you came up with the idea.
Well, I tell you, I didn't. My Billy Goldenberg, who plays piano for me and who was also the co-author, had been after me to do the show, to do a one-woman show for ever since we met. And I always said no, because I thought, oh, we have to get a writer, and it'll be. I didn't know where to begin. But after I left Golden Girls, I really didn't know what I wanted to do after that, but I did know that I didn't want to do any more sitcom, episodic television. And finally, I decided, rather than wait around for some brilliant role to come my way, let's do it. So we did it, and it's been wonderful. It's one of those things where you don't have to sign a contract for a couple of years. You can do it when you want to do it, or not do it when you don't want to do it.
And how much longer are you in the West End for?
We're only here. Our last performance is the 18th of this month.
Will you come back again and do it?
Oh, I'd love to. It's my favorite city.
Thank you.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So you like the British audiences as well?
Oh, yes. I mean,
Really?
That's good news.
They're a little.
Terry.
Yeah,
I
this
will
crowd.
say they're a little. What's the word? Not playful. No, the whole British humor is so. It's
Stupid?
Different.
it's very different. I mean, I remember being here years ago. I don't even think I can say it on camera. I better not say what I thought I might say. But they're very racy.
I'm intrigued.
You know what I mean? The
They are.
humor is a little racy.
Yeah.
So is
Having
yours
to
on
do
that
with,
stage.
you
People
know,
Mucky.
might-
bodily
Mucky.
functions and what have you.
Now, Billy on the mucky side.
Delighted to say that B. Arthur will be with us all morning.
The Egyptians, the Romans, the Greeks, the Assyrians, the Babylonians. Look about it, and she doesn't like it. Brian, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Now, excuse me, I haven't...
Ms. Arthur, I feel such a lightweight, which is not a term that comes easy to me. How are you?
You like licorice?
I used to call it Spanish. Am I the only person who ever called licorice Spanish?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, OK.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely adore it. It's delish.
Danny.
Go on.
Why are hot dogs so called, says Simon Hall in Preston?
Well, no surprise to find out that the hot dog, of course, is an invention of Ms. Arthur's nation. However, it was brought over with the Germans as a bratwurst in a sandwich, and it was sold at baseball games. Now, when you think of it, it's not such a term that's confusing, because what dog does a hot dog look like?
A bit like a sausage dog.
A sausage dog called the Dachshund. They used to be called hot Dachshunds. And at the baseball games, there was a cartoonist called Tad Dorgan looking for a new character in 1906, and he went home and did the adventures of Dorgan, the hot Dachshund. But Dachshund was unwieldy for the masthead on his little cartoon trip, so he just made it the hot dog.
What?
And hot dog replaced a hot Dachshund, which is the dog they're supposed to look like, thus the hot dog, ladies and
Thank
gentlemen.
you.
Tad Dorgan.
Bannister from Crawley. Why don't woodpeckers get headaches?
Tremendous question. Why don't woodpeckers get headaches? Now, let us... Firstly, woodpeckers are real things. Some people think they're not real things, like fairies, elves and Eskimos. But they are real things. But the headache, I don't know about. I get maybe... Terry, what do you get? Well, 1, 2, 3 headaches a year, perhaps. My wife...
Never get one at all, but we have fairies at the bottom of our garden.
Do you really?
And woodpeckers.
And woodpeckers. Well, the thing, you believe in both. Good man. So, what we've got here is the headache. Does the headache exist? Because my wife eats Nurofen when she's bored. Oh, I've got a headache. And I don't believe a woman... Women like lots of headache stuff. Why doesn't the woodpecker get headaches, male or female? Is because its beak is not attached to its head. There is a membrane around here that acts like a shock absorber. So while the woodpecker is going dong, 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 it all gets... Nature has put in a real good shock absorber, a very thick skull, make your own joke up there, and while the woodpecker does its work with a beak like a chisel, it actually doesn't vibrate through the skull because it has this membrane all around here that absorbs it.
Yeah, but how do you know that it doesn't, that they don't get headaches?
I went out with a woodpecker for 6 months once, and never did she refuse me.
Okay.
The only gal who never refused me. Okay. Never had a headache.
Jeff Coombs in Walsall. What is the most expensive thing in the world?
The most expensive thing in the world? Well, lots of people backstage been making jokes up about people they've been out with, the meanest. The most expensive thing in the world, quite seriously, and I've written it down, Californium-252, which is a component necessary for atomic energy. It is an element, and at current market prices, if you went down your local market and you say, oh, we've got some radishes, or I'll have them, give us some potatoes. Got any Californium-252? You'd say yes. And you say, how much is that? It'd say £511 billion per pound, putting gold well and truly in its place, and I'd say most West End theatre prices, which people complain about, not for your show, of course, but nevertheless, £511 billion a pound, Californium-252, the most expensive thing in the world.
I'll take £5 of that then. Is static electricity good for anything, says Steve Beasley from Nottingham.
Oh, and this is where the oil company's assassins will be out in the audience, because we're going to prove, yes, it is, and you'll have to come this way.
Thank you, Danny.
A little too much fun there. OK, so here's the thing. I know we're going to... Here we go. So, look, I'm getting the static electricity up. In years to come, every car will have a balloon on the front of it. Because look what happens. Look what happens when you put a balloon near... Oh, ladies... Am I right? Am I right? A little more.
What
just a little, 2 seconds.
A
little more. Look at that. Yes. We need to harness the power of the balloon. And now back to my friends.
The Bake Man, then text DB followed by your question to 82222. That's 82222. B. Arthur, I think I have to apologise for all of this, but it's lovely to have you here. Coming up, more boob aerobics. And don't forget, Uncle Terry's giving away a widescreen TV and DVD player, and you've still got a chance to win them.
Oh, I didn't know I had to speak.
Yes.
Well, kiddies, all the emails in. Lord Winston, Professor. A man who likes his licorice.
It's very good for the brain, actually.
Is it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but
Granny will tell you that.
apart from that, doing the brain any good. Jacqueline in Worcester wants to know how she can improve her memory. Is there any quick fix?
By memorising things, you learn more things. So one of the things we show is that actually if you remember where you've been and relate that to an object, you can remember the object better. And that's how the world champion memorises cards. So he can memorise 5 packs of playing cards, 10 packs of playing cards in order, within 20 minutes of looking at them, by recognising each card as a separate place that he's visited.
I see. Now, we hear a lot about positive thinking. Do you believe in that? Do you think that thinking positive can improve your chances in life?
Yes, I'm sure it does. Absolutely certain. Yeah, I mean, if you're negative, if you're pessimistic, then of course you won't succeed. You've got to be reasonably optimistic. You've got to believe that you can do something, otherwise you won't try and do it. So an optimistic attitude must be a good thing.
Hallelujah.
Good.
Wonderful. B,
Yes.
Jez from Manchester says, what is it like being a gay icon?
Oh, first of all, I guess I did know that I was. It's very flattering, I think, because it's not just being a gay icon. It's toddlers adore the shows that I've done because they're so anti-establishment, you know, and also I just think that we've touched on subjects that no one else has touched on before.
Ashley from Bournemouth says, who was the queen on the set of Golden Girls?
Oh, there was no queen. There was no queen.
You're all queens
No,
in our
absolutely
minds.
not.
You're all queens.
It's a very
There's quite a few of them here.
democratic.
A big thank you to all our guests today. The
Yes,
wonderful
indeed.
B. Arthur, Robert Winston, Barefoot Doctor, Bryony Hudson, and Steve from Gym Box, and our very own Baker
He's got a pipe.
Man.
He's got a licorice pipe.
Please join